Actually, the first question is what is the difference between API testing and unit testing, like UI testing? So actually, which should be preferred, and which one is easy? Uh, yeah, you please give the answer for these questions.
Okay, so what exactly is the question again? Sorry.
Difference between API and UI testing.
Okay.
Also, I added one more requirements here. Like suppose the requirement is related to uh, API testing now. So what are the things we should ask to the stakeholders?
Mhm. Okay. Can you hear me? I think there is some network issues in your connection. The line is breaking. But yeah. Meanwhile, like let's welcome Harish as well. Hi, Harish.
Hey, hi, welcome.
Hi. How are you?
Hi, Raja. I'm fine.
Good. Good. Okay, Raja.
Congratulations, Vasant, on your work anniversary.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Harish.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, Harish. Let's first discuss Raja's question, and then we'll come back to you. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, yes, sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Raja. So, firstly, when talking about your first question, what's the difference between API and the UI testing? So, when it is coming to API, you are directly sending the request, which is you are directly triggering whatever the request you want, which is it can be a get request, or it can be a post request, and you are actually triggering the business request. But when it comes to the UI, it comes along with the other dependent images or other dependent JavaScript or CSS, whatever the supporting files, right? So we have a set of supporting files whenever it comes to UI, because in UI we have all the CSS, the JS, the menus that needs to be populated along with the UI. So that's the difference. That's the main difference when I say the difference between the API and the UI, right? So basically, you have to understand how does both of them work. So when it comes to API, you're just going to send only the business request. For example, it can be a request to log in, or it can be a request to um, add a transaction, or to trigger some activity, some business request, right? But when it comes to UI, it is added with the other. I mean, like, you're going to anyway send the same business request, like opening a page, or sorry, opening a account, or getting a transaction, or doing some post transactions. But along with that, you're going to send the other client side request as well. For example, it can be a CSS, it can be a JS, or it can be a JPEG file, right? So that's what the main difference when it comes to the UI and the API.
Okay, okay. Sir, and one more doubt in this. So in a UI testing, we able to capture the, I mean, we able to do the scripting through the JMeter, sir,
Mhm, mhm,
directly.
mhm.
But suppose the requirement is API testing now, so actually we would get the endpoints URL from the stakeholders.
Mhm.
So after that, so what are the things we should ask? For example, I think the tokens also should be asked to them, or how is the process for
Yeah,
the API testing
everything,
requirements?
like, you for running the test, you must get everything from them. Like, for example, the URL, what type of request is there? Is that get request or a post request? And if it is a post request, what are the test data that you need? And even if it's a get request, so what are the test data you need? And you need to collect the set of data that you need to parameterize, because you're not going to use the same set of data every time. So you must need to collect every single data that you need for doing the test. And in case if they really do not have those test data, then you must find a mechanism to populate those test data, test data. Sorry, and okay, so this is in terms of the scripting, and you must also think about the think time, and you must understand the flow of the application because sorry, flow in the sense when we are sending APIs. So you must understand what are like what is going to be the first API and how does the set of APIs that is going to follow. So what's the first one and what's the second one? So same way you must understand how does the flow of those APIs work. And okay, that's one in terms of the APIs. And when it comes to the execution, so you must collect the end-to-end set of requirements. So, for example, when it comes to the iteration, so you must check with them like how many users do they really need to test, or what kind of test they need, whether it's a load test or whether it's a stress test. So you must understand, you must collect all those requirements from them, and which environment are you going to really test it? Like, is that going to be a dev or or a SIT or a stage or pre-prod? So you must collect those information. So anything that's required for you to run the test. So once you open, I mean, like before you open your tool to start recording or to start creating your script, you must collect all those data.
Okay.
Yeah. So any other
S-
questions?
Uh, Sir, yeah, sir, the one question is coming in mind. So, like, the question is, suppose the client requested us to do the scripting, scripting. So they give 10 APIs. Sir.
Mhm,
So in the 10 APIs, I need to achieve like a thousand transaction. Okay.
mhm.
So which means like how would I give the uh, uh, I mean how to do the work, how to create the workloading for the this concept, sir.
Okay, so in fact, I have shared you the video on how to do the workload modeling. But anyways, let me explain it to you now. So we have to use the Little's law, using which
Okay.
first you need to find the number of users because you got the throughput, right? So basically, the Little's law comes with a formula like number of users is equal to throughput multiplied by the response time plus think time, right? So now you have the throughput, which is the value, and using that throughput you must you'll have also, I mean, you also have to give the response time, sorry, the think time. So now you have the values of throughput and the think time. On top of that, you'll have to run a single iteration of all the API requests, and you can collect the response times of those requests. So now you have all the three factors on the right side. So using those values,
Yes.
you can calculate the number of users. So when you get the number of users, automatically you can use it, and then using that number of users, you can number of users and the response time plus think time, you can get the throughput. So we all did, right, when we did in the school. So when we have the equations, we will equalize the LHS and the right RHS, right? The same thing. So once you collect those values,
Okay.
you can automatically do it, and it's very simple. And again, there is another part here. When they say like 10 requests, are they going to be concurrent requests or are they going to be one after the other? For example, if they give 10 API, uh, those APIs comes like one after the other. So in that case, you must the what to say like the load might vary because they're going to be uh, they're not going to be a concurrent, but rather they're going to be a sequential testing. Like uh, the first 10 hits will be there by one user, and then concurrently the other user will start to do his transaction. So same way, when it is like 10 different requests, so in that case, it's going to be like each user are going to test all the URLs separately. Like the thing is like, let me show you. Let me open. Okay, come on. Let me share my screen. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I
Can
can see.
I can see? Okay. So when you say you have 10 API, so for example, like I have got API 1 and API 2, and let me just okay, let me just take for example like 5. Okay. So there are like two scenarios. One is, are you going to test these APIs all at the same time? Something like this. Okay. So API 1, API 2, and API 3, API 4, and API 5. Okay. So are you going to run these tests parallelly? Which is uh, when you are going to start your API 1, your API 2 will be started, your API 3, your API 4 will be started, and then the API 5. And this will be done by all the users. Or is that going to be one after the other? So a user comes in here, he runs the API 1, he waits for some time, and then API 2, and then he waits for some time, and then do the API 3. So same way until API 5, right? So there are two scenarios. So first you need to
Okay.
understand in what way is he going to achieve it, right? And after that you will have to think about your the response time. So let me take for example, so here uh, let's say like this particular transaction takes like each takes like 1 second. Since it's API, it's going to take 1 second each. Okay, so totally one iteration of it takes 5 seconds, and along with that, by if we are adding 10 seconds to each of them, so after the first transaction we'll have 10 seconds, and after the second we have another 10, then after third we have another 10, and then after fourth we have another 10, and then at the end of the fifth we will be adding a pacing. Like for example, let me take for example, like if it's 20 seconds. Okay, so totally we have 60 seconds of think time, or 60 seconds of wait time, along with your 5 seconds, right? So now when you
Okay.
say if we want to find the number of users, so let me make it as number of users is equal to firstly the throughput. So for example, if you want, if you said like you need 1,000 hits, right? So when we say 1,000
Yeah.
multiplied by the response times, which is like 5 seconds plus 60, so which is like 65 seconds, so which is actually 65,000. And on top of it you'll have to divide it by the amount or the duration of time. So for example, if you're going to run this test
Okay.
for like 1 hour, so in that case you will have to divide it by 3600, which is by the number of seconds. So it will be like, so you must need 18 users to achieve it. So when you are using 18 users you can achieve this. So for, let me take for example, so how I'm going to prove it, it's like, so when you have 18 users, they all start at the very first second of this 1 hour. Okay, so when they start like for the very first second, right? So after the 65 seconds, which is after like 1 minute, okay, 1 minute and 5 seconds, they will again come back to that 18, right? So for a
Mhm.
1 minute they will iterate almost like, let me take it to you like this way, like when it is 65 seconds and it's divided by 3600 by 65. So they will be iterating 55 times. Okay, so almost like, so when it's like almost 55 times, it's like 18 multiplied by 55. So you will almost achieve whatever you want, right? So have you got it, like
Oh,
55.3. So you got it right. So when you are able
yes,
to,
sir.
so if you see, it's almost like 99.94. So which is almost you'll be reaching your expected
Right.
throughput. So now I'm able to match it, right? So the number of requests along with the number of users and your response time and your think time. So when you are uh, what to say, like when you're simplifying all these values, you will achieve whatever you want. And the other scenario, let me tell you, so when you are doing all these requests in a parallel way, so for example, your API 1 and then same way, like the next user is going to do the API 2 and API 3, API 4, API 5. So in that scenario, let me tell you, if they are taking like only 1 second to do their testing, and you're going to add a 10-second of pacing time or 20-second of pacing time, so whatever it is, so it will be like 11 seconds now, right? So same way, for each iteration,
Oh,
they will take 11 seconds, and then you're going to come up with this value, which is going to be um, okay, let me do another thing here. So it's going to be 1000 users, and each transaction takes 11 seconds of
oh, one.
yeah. So now it's going to be 11,000 and multiply dividing by 3600, which is, let me just get the number. So yeah, getting three uh, users. So
Okay.
what will happen is the number of you may like and again let me tell you this way. So if you see here, when you are running one by one, for each iteration it takes 65 seconds, and number of users here you got 18, right? And now it is only showing 3. Okay, so you
Yeah.
got the difference, right? So what, even though when it is like
Yeah.
just 3, you will be able to achieve it because all these requests will complete immediately and then the user will go to the next iteration. So they will be able to achieve it but in a different way. So that's the reason, like if you were able to understand the little's law, the way how does it work,
Okay.
the number of users. So basically you should understand the formula. So that's what I'm saying in all my videos. So you should understand the very basics of it, and you must keep on practicing some examples, something like this, like the APIs or the UI. So if you keep on practicing it, then you will be able to achieve it. Yeah, so that's my simple advice, and this is how it works. So you can watch all my videos, and I think this, so hope you are able to understand this example, right? Or you have any other doubts on this?
Yeah. Okay. So I understand this concept, sir.
Hmm.
The last question is like how to select the tools based on the different kind of services. Suppose so as per my knowledge, suppose the application is based on web application, so I choose the JMeter. Suppose it is the application is a web service now, so I go to like a Roadrunner wise. So likewise, how to select the tools for the different kind of
Okay, so
application.
firstly, you must understand the tools and what are all the protocols they support. In fact, when you say uh, if it is a web application, I'll go with JMeter, and if it is a web service, I'll go with the load runner. But it's not the case because even JMeter supports web services, right? So you can create the web services even using JMeter. So it's possible even with JMeter. So firstly, you should understand the uh, whatever the protocols any tool supports, and on top of it, it's their budgeting as well. So some of the clients have the access, or they can spend some money on the tools. Like if it is like uh, they need, they can very well spend money so they can get a load runner. And if the next level is neo load, and then it comes to JMeter, which is like open source. That's the first point. Okay, so even we can tell any tool, but uh, in fact every tool supports web application and every tool supports web services, but that does not mean that they're going to bring it, right? So that's the first point. So that's the first thing. So the budget is the first thing, and then the second part is not every tool supports all the protocols, because load runner highly supports the mainframe protocols, uh, And when it comes to SAP, Neoload and load runner supports, but JMeter does not have access to it. And when it comes to much of the latest open source related protocols, JMeter gives us support because like any tool that's been developed on the platform Java platform, so they actually is supported by JMeter because you can establish some third party connection tools and you can do it. So, for example, like the IBM MQ, or you can even test the Kafka or whatever other tools it is. So, firstly, we need to understand. So, you will have to first bring a list like which tool supports which protocols. Okay, and then you will have to tell that this is the reason I'm going to select this particular tool for this testing. Okay, so whenever they say what tool are you going to select, so we must have a question like what is a protocol that needs to be tested, and what are the protocols that are going to add, because you can start with JMeter and then suddenly they come up with a different protocol that JMeter does not support. Then in that scenario, you'll have to migrate to another tool. So you'll
Okay.
have to ask the projects forecast as well. Like, what are you forecasting? So, is that going to be just the web application for another 3, 4, 5 years, right? So, in that case, you'll have to question the interviewer, like, what else? What is your plan? How are you going to? How do you forecast? And only after you collect all those information, you'll have to come up the conclusion, right? Because anyways, you're the one who are going to use the tool. Because after you can say that after 3, 4 years, if you're coming up with a different protocol which JMeter does not support, then automatically you'll have to migrate all your existing scripts as well, because you cannot run one particular test using JMeter and the other test with the latest one. Everything has to be the same set of tools, because every tool has its own set of parameters. It has its configuration, and working with tools, handling multiple tools is quite a chaos. So in those scenarios, you'll have to ask the interviewer multiple questions to understand what exactly is he trying to get out of you. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So the final question is, sir, like, um, so if the application is existing now, so like, we can get the concurrent user details the production from the production or developers. We get the details from them.
Mhm, mhm.
Suppose the application is new now, so how do we get that kind of details, sir? And then how to do the kind of test. Suppose the client is not knowledge in performance testing, so then how do we approach for the testing, and what kind of testing we have to do, and how do we suggest these things to the uh, stakeholders?
Okay. So again, let me tell you. In fact, I have discussed this in one of my videos on how to collect the network, the NFRs when it is a new application. Because this is again a common question, like how are you going to collect the NFRs if uh, the client does not have any idea about the non-functional testing, right? So in that scenario, we will have to come up with the set of requirements, and we'll have to confirm with them, like, is this needed, or is this required, or is this enough? Say for example, you will have to a performance engineer will have actually experience with other applications as well. So based on that, he will have to come up with his own set of metrics, like what are all the metrics I'm going to collect, and how do I'm going to approach this application. Like for example, um, and again, there is another scenario as well. Like, let me tell you, like, if you're going to work in a retail based application, you will have to come up with the approach which is specifically for the retail application. So why I'm telling to compare or to bring a similar scenario is, most of the retail applications works in the same way. Like, let me take you an example. Tell you an example. Like, most of us will do some searches in Amazon, but only very few set of users will add to the cart. Like, we do add to the cart, but still a very few set of users will do the final set of payment and complete the transaction, right? So in all those scenarios, every single retail application works the same way. We all do, right? We add to the cart, or we add them to the um, the bucket, or we'll add to the wish list, right? So uh, every single retail application will have huge number of transactions to the other transactions, like for example search. So you go to the application, you do some search, right, and you add to the cart, or you just add to the wish list, but the payment transactions will be very less. So the reason why I'm telling you is, you will have to first come up with the workload modeling, because they will tell you the application. So this is, so first you'll have to get a walkthrough of the application, like what were the transactions they have, and how do they work, and then you'll have to come up with the workload, right? This particular transaction will take a huge number of hits, or more number of throughput, and this particular transaction will not take huge number of throughput. It will be like 10% of the whole set of transactions. So in those ways you will, because anyways you said the stakeholders or the business does not know how to do NFR, so you will have to come up with those values. You will have to tell them that this is what I'm going to do, and are you okay with that? Because by doing this set of actions, like for example, by having a workload in this mix, in this percentage, will give you the actual load. Okay, so this is the first part, and then you will have to understand the architecture, like how many app servers do they have, and how many web servers do they have, and how many business database servers they have, right? And I believe you understand how do they the architecture works. So any
Yeah.
request that we send will go via the web server, and then it will reach the app server, and finally if there are any database requests, it goes to the database server, and then the same way it comes back to us as the response, right? So you'll have to first understand the architecture, and then you will have to answer several questions, like whether there is a load balancer setup, and what is the size of the or the configuration. I'm saying the size, which means is the configuration in the production environment, and what is the configuration it's in the environment that you're going to test. Okay. Also, before that, you'll have to understand whether you have an isolated environment for your performance testing. So you'll have to understand all these. You'll have to question all these uh, questions. Like anyway, in fact, I have like posted those questions as well, and in fact, there's a sheet. So if you really follow that sheet, it will be very helpful for you, because in that sheet, I have covered almost everything. And the more you question the business, they will understand, okay, so this guy needs this information, and this will help me to achieve this part, which is to do the testing, to understand the response times or the throughput, or to give more stress to the application. And then also you'll have to tell them that it's not only just the response times, you're going to collect also the CPU, the memory, and all the other the server side resources, right? So you'll have to tell them that, and you must explain them. So why are you collecting the CPU or the memory, and what is the impact it's going to give in during the load test? So when the CPU is like very high during the load test, that means either the code has to be tuned, or if there are any garbage collections, the memory has to be noted, or it has to be fixed. So you'll have to come up with all these findings. So you'll have to get more information. Only then you can come back with all your findings, and then you can come up with the test plan.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah. I think I have answered all your questions. And in case let me tell you again. Let's just go through all my videos which I have shared yesterday, because in those videos I have
Sure.
detailed explanation for all your questions. Okay, and just keep on, like I said, keep on practicing this Little's law, or the formula thing. Okay, so this will actually help you to uh, demonstrate to the interviewer that how the basic understanding you have, and you can handle the scenario, like how to do the load test. Okay,
Okay, sure. Sure.
sure, great. And yeah, Harish, you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Harish, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good, good. So yeah, Harish, you have anything to ask?
Yeah, so actually, I'm a beginner in performance. Like, I'm having like only 3 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in load runner for 1.5 years. Then I'm working in a J meter.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Actually, in my team there are only 5 members.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm having some basic questions. Like during a NSR gathering, what are some basic questions we need to ask, or like what are the mandatory questions we need to ask? Like that, I'm having some doubts.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I usually ask what's the application architecture,
Hmm.
and why is there any upstream or downstream applications?
Hmm.
There are any inbound calls? Is there any application having?
Hmm.
And what will be the critical business flow, and
Hmm.
what will be the expected response time, and what's the throughput we need to achieve, like that, or how many users we need to use, like that. Some basic questions only I will ask. More
Okay.
than this, we need to ask me what are the questions we need.
Okay, I think you have almost covered the most of the part. Like for example, the critical transactions. When you say that's going to be the basic foundation. Like you on top of it, you're going to do your test, and apart from that, you must collect the test data. So I believe you have covered that. So you must ask for the test data. Like what test data are you going to use? Because I have told you like several times, we must use a different set of test data every time to avoid getting cached. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
another priority thing. So just imagine you're going to do your test. Okay, so what are the things you need? So firstly, you will have to have your transactions, and then to complete your transactions, you need the test data. And then once you have your test data, you're going to do your test. So you'll have to understand the workload modeling. So you'll have to understand what percentage of users you're going to give for each scripts, and then the bigger picture, the how much is the total user you're going to test. And another thing is like what is the duration you're going to run the test, whether it's going to be 1 hour test or it's going to be a 2 hour test. And then why is that? So why you should so basically people will do, like some people will do 1 hour test and some people do 2 hour test. So when we ask them why are you doing 1 hour 2 hour test, they say no, my previous team they do that, so I'm doing that. No, it's not like that. So when you are trying to do a 1 hour or 2 hour test, you must understand why is that reason. Because even though it's a 1 hour test, there should be a 1 hour of a steady state. It's not the total duration should be 1 hour. Right. So you will have to understand all those parts. So you must tell them that when you're going to run a 2 hour test, you will be giving more number of hits to the server. Right. When it's a 1 hour test, anyways, it's going to be a less number of hits, but anyways, you're going to achieve a similar throughput. Right. Throughput in the sense like the number of hits per second. So that you have to understand. And so basically you have to collect all those informations. And once you start doing your test, so what all the metrics are going to collect? Is that just going to be the response times, the throughput, or you're going to collect the server side as well, like the CPU, the memory, and everything? So you'll have to understand those side of the requirements as well. And yeah, so basically these are the requirements that you have to collect. And then like you said, you very well said that you are going to collect the architecture of the application, and you also have to create a comparison of your test environment, the environment where you're going to test, and then your actual production environment. So that will give you how much load will go into the application, the production application, right? So this will give you a comparison idea, and you can actually scale down uh, the load from the production based on your staging or your testing environment. Because when you have like 8 times of your staging, so basically you have to scale down your load as well, right? So hope you understand like what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So these are the information you need to collect, because if you want to do a testing in your staging environment, you must understand what exactly is happening in the production, right? Because only any test that we are running is mainly for the production, like the real time, the live users. So basically we have to scale down, or basically we have to manipulate the numbers, the actual load that we're going to test.
Yeah. Yeah. As well as this Little's law, so I used to tell my team we can use for calculating the paging, we can use Little's law. In that case, told to them they usually tell for A/B testing only we can achieve pacing using Little's law. Other than UA testing means it we won't get that exact TTH using Little's law. They keep on telling that.
Yeah, that's true, but it's the numbers. So for example, if you're aiming 1000, you can achieve around 995, like even I showed you here, even the Excel sheet if I showed you.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
When you have the numbers in your hand, because the response times might change a bit in seconds or milliseconds, but the think time or the pacing is not going to change. It's going to be static, in the sense like it's not going to change during your testing, right? So
Mm.
uh, when you we are using a little SLA to achieve the throughput or to find the number of users, the difference will be like 1000 to 995. But if you are not using it, the difference will be like 1000 to 1100 or 1000 to 1200. Either you will be achieving more number of hits than you expect, or it will be like very less than what you expect. So that's actually the problem. So to avoid that, we are using the little SLA. At least the difference will be like less than 1% or less than 0.5%. So that's the reason we use the little SLA to achieve the throughput. And yeah, people say
Okay, okay.
if they don't know, they can say that it's not going to work. But we know how it really helps us to achieve the throughput, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yep. So any other questions,
Yeah.
Harish?
Yeah, so I actually already was in a group about the EOS engineering
Hmm.
because from a performance engineering side, our team is completely moving to now site reliability side.
Okay. Okay.
So initially they asked to know about some about chaos engineering and
Hmm.
chaos concepts.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you're the one who was asking about that
So
chaos engineering thing.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm the one.
Okay. Okay.
So as a beginner, what's the step can I need to start? Straightly, can I do the Gremlin or Gremlin certification? Can I choose that path or little bit about Linux?
Uh,
After studying that, can I go to
Yeah, actually, it's not about the tools, but it's about the process again. Like when you're going to approach the chaos engineering, you must first understand how does it really work, the very basic part. And then once you get familiarized with the process, like how does the chaos engineering works, then later you can decide your tool or your path of how to do it, right? So first try to understand that.
yes,
In fact,
yes.
I can just add a video on that, like how does the chaos engineering works and
Okay.
what all the things we need. I'll definitely create a video, and I think you can watch that as well. I think it's actually an interesting area, and it's like you said, it's a level up for you, because it does not only uh, uh, do it's another leveling up of your skills, and you can have a huge learning curve as well. So yeah, I'll definitely discuss that in some of my next videos, and then you can watch it. And after that,
Yeah,
sometime then we'll have a discussion on that.
sure, sure. From my side, that's it. Manju.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great, great. It was nice talking to you guys, and yeah, so thanks again for coming to these meet.
So,
Yeah, yeah, Raja, tell me.
sir, I have, actually, suppose if you get a high response time issues, now we can solve them by scaling up in the scale up process. Sir. Suppose if you are facing response time is slow now, so how do we fix that issue, sir?
Sorry, I don't understand your questions. What's that, Raja? Again?
Suppose if we face the issues like uh, the AP is getting more response time now, so
Okay.
we fix them by scale up level. Suppose
Mhm,
if you are facing issues like response time is very slow now,
mhm.
I mean it's the AP is beyond the SLA now, so how do we fix that issues?
Okay. So, firstly, let me first give you the idea on that response. If so, you said like if the response time is high, you will do a scale up. So that's actually not the solution, right? So that can be one of the solution, but that's
Okay.
not the actual solution. So when you say the response time is high, so what do you mean by scale out or scale up?
Like we can add uh, CP units
Hmm.
and then increase the pod level
Hmm.
and then also set RUs in the DB level. This is where we can resolve
Okay.
those issues.
Okay, got it. So when you say scaling out is not that simple. Like in fact, the cloud has the opportunity to spin up machines, but still, when it comes to scale out, you will have to configure your load balancer part. You will have to configure the database, and the request should properly navigate, go back, come with a response, right? So that's an option, but that's quite a complex thing. But the very basic thing that we have to do is when an API has a high response time, we will have to find what exactly is the transaction doing, whether it involves a database or whether it don't involves any microservices, or whether it goes to any third party tool which takes all those response time. So when it comes to the high response times, we'll have to understand what exactly is it doing. For example, you are doing a post request, you're adding some data to the table, right? So you must understand why is it taking more time. So a database, if it's a search transaction, so if it is taking a lot of time, so that means there is no proper indexing, right? So when there are no indexes set up, there are chances where there will be a huge, the high number of response times. And if it is a transaction that takes for a post transaction, then firstly we must understand whether the transaction that I'm doing, is that right, or is that optimal? The response times are optimal. So first you have to understand that, and it's not just the scaling up will do everything. Because if it is like scaling up when the response times are high, then that can be the solution, right? Then why do they need a performance testers? Anytime when they see high response time, automatically they can spin up missions, right? So it's not just about
Yeah.
spinning up the missions or adding up the CPU or the memory. It's all about tuning it. So with your existing current infrastructure, you will have to come up with the solution. Okay, so that's the first point. And then
Okay.
when it comes to the second point, so what is the second question again? So
Well, sir,
the response time
suppose the
is less.
API
Yeah.
is getting, yeah, that's what I'm listening.
Okay, so when you say less, what exactly you're saying less? So is that the response time is can you give me an example, please?
For example, um, the API should be 300 millisecond.
Hmm.
So also it it can be two 200 250 something like that. Suppose the API uh, is 100 seconds or 90 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds now. So it is a huge price, sir. So how to fix this issue?
Oh, okay, okay, very good. So it's actually a very good, clear example. So when you say it's 10 seconds or 5 seconds, which is a totally an unexpected response size, right? So that's a response size. So when you can compare your actual response with the response that you are seeing now, you can clearly understand why is that response size less. Because when it is like very less, which means like it did not properly bring out your response. So for example, you are requesting some information, like for example a record of a particular user, which is actually 200 seconds response time. But if it is actually showing you 5 seconds or like 10 seconds, that does mean that it does not properly bring your record. Okay, you got me right. So the actual response
Yes,
is different, but the expected is different. So by
yes.
comparing your response, so that's why we come up with the assertions. So you do the assertions part, because while doing your debugging, or while you create your script, while you do your validation, you have your validations. Like you can easily watch it, because one by one you can watch it. But when you're doing a load test, you cannot watch it for every single user, right? So in that scenario, we'll have to use the assertion,
Mhm.
and you have to make sure that you are getting your expected responses, right? So are you able to
Oh,
understand? Or I
okay.
do I need to add some more information to it?
Sir, actually, suppose we cannot add the, I mean, we are disable the assassin while doing the lotus,
Hmm.
right, sir?
Hmm.
So at the time the assassin will not support, right?
Okay, so in
In
that
other way,
scenario,
how to fix the issues?
yeah, there are several things. Like, so for example, when you can uh, add conditions to see whether if the response times are like lesser for a particular record, you can try to see the responses. So when you say with jmeter, or like um, in fact when you are like doing it with tools like neurode, you can watch, you can follow any of the user. But when it comes to the tools like jmeter, I believe you can add assertions. Okay, in that scenario where you're disabling it, right?
Hmm.
um okay, so In scenarios where you're disabling it, automatically you can understand that something is wrong there, right?
Yeah.
And in those scenarios, you can check, like, okay, uh, okay. Firstly, let me tell you this way: you can have the test data on the other hand, right? So one way you have the test data which you are testing it. So if you are finding it something like wrong, so if it goes wrong, then you can try to emulate that scenario and you can find what exactly went wrong, because it could be a test
Okay.
data issue,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because that's what it comes up, right? You are sending a request, and then if it comes wrongly, then it could be a test data issue. And there are several scenarios as well, where if the response is not properly coming, it could be a kind of a memory leak issue, like the object is getting created but it does not get uh, uh, deleted automatically. So that could be another reason. So there were like several reasons around it. So it's not just only the issue with the test data. So you'll have to list down what are the reasons that you have. But again, I would advise adding assertions will not do harm, but in those scenarios, like where you're finding it, where you're trying to find these issues, because anyways you're going to run your test in a non-GUI mode, and you're going to capture only the assertions for those. I mean, like what to say, like for those things which goes wrong. So I would
Okay.
say adding assertions won't harm when you're doing test to find the actual issues.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
So thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining. And if you have any other questions, just you can message me anytime. We'll do a catch up sometime later. Okay. And all the very best for your interview.
Sure, sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, take care. Bye.